The first stop today has to be the local Goodwill that I always hit up. I headed straight to the back where I ended up finding this Nintendo Switch case for 99 cents, but since I already have a few, I ended up leaving this one behind, but honestly, this was in pretty good condition. Then I checked the rack at the front and found the Series of Unfortunate Events for, again, 99 cents for the PS2, but when I looked in it, there wasn't a disc, so obviously I had to leave that behind. This Goodwill ended up being kind of a dud, but that's okay. Sometimes you hit home runs and sometimes you strike out. So we're going to go to Cash America now because there's an estate sale that I found on Facebook Marketplace that we've got to hit up, but it hadn't opened yet, so I stopped off at the Cash America pawn, where I ended up walking in search of high hopes, and honestly, I made it to the game section, and I found Plants vs. Zombies, which is a fun game, but I didn't need it for $10, so I left it behind, and I checked out most of the other games, but there was nothing I had to have here. So I headed over to where they have the game consoles, and they did have a bunch here, but everything was either overpriced or stuff I didn't want, so unfortunately I had to leave it behind, which still left me with a few minutes until the estate sale opened. So I went next door to the restore rack where I actually headed straight to the games and found quite a few. First off was DT Racer and this MX Unleashed game for the PS2. And on that side as well, I found this paintball game for the Wii, but honestly, I don't need either one of these. And last but not least, I went to the other side where I found this PS4 VR game, which has been here a while, and a ton of other games down on the bottom shelf, as well as a few games here. Now, I saw Dark Souls, and like I said earlier, always check the case, because lo and behold, it wasn't there, which is a big bummer. I would have picked it up. I don't have that on the Xbox One. Then I ended up finding Rock Band 2, which is totally awesome, and a few others. But I found probably the second best controller ever made. I mean, for $5, why wouldn't anyone pick this up? But I got out of there pretty quickly because obviously there wasn't anything that I needed. And it was time to go to the estate sale because it had just opened while I was looking at those games. So I rushed over there and walked into the estate sale, which had just opened, thankfully. The first thing that I ended up seeing was the stack of Xbox 360 games, which I had to look through, but honestly, there wasn't anything here that I wanted to pick up. So I rushed through this pretty quickly, and then I saw it. The Nintendo 64 Jungle Green with an extra green controller and Star Wars Racer, which is awesome. So I'm so glad that I ended up picking this up. They had a price for $120, but I ended up offering them $100 for all of this, which is totally awesome. First off, like I said, it does have an extra green controller, and then you've got the console itself with the controller and the extra cords. It does have an expansion pack, and last but not least is Star Wars Episode 1 Eraser. Now, the reason I ended up finding this is because my wife saw the estate sale on Facebook Marketplace, and in those pictures they actually had the console. It wasn't on like any of the first pictures, it was way into it, so like 30 or 40 pictures in, I saw it and she sent it and said, you gotta go buy this place. So obviously I did, and I'm so thankful I did, because if I bought the console itself, according to price charting, it's worth $140. The green controller is worth another $25-ish, and then another $10 for the game. So all around, this is worth around $175. So that is totally awesome. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the console yet, whether or not I'm going to keep it or try to trade it for something else. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and head out to the last place we ended up going to, which is the antique store that I always love checking out. First off, I found a bunch of loose discs here. Honestly, I thought maybe hiding in here would be something good, but it was a bunch of like old sports games that no one really wanted, which is why it was still there. Then I ended up finding this Mario plush, which was pretty big actually. However, they wanted a little too much for it, so I had to leave that behind. So I continued on, and there were quite a bunch of booths that I just ended up skipping, but this one ended up having this interesting looking Pokemon board game, so I took a look at that, and right underneath was a Pac-Man board game that looked pretty awesome. However, I just don't really need this, and I don't know if I would really play it too much, so I left it behind, as well as I ended up finding a Minecraft Lego set, which I thought was pretty cool. Then I continued on where I saw this little Pikachu enamel pin, which was pretty cool, as well as the stack of Xbox One games that's been here for a while and seems to be dwindling every time I go there. And down on the floor, I found this, what looked to be like a Pong machine, but it was a Telstar from Sears. I thought it was interesting, but honestly, I probably wouldn't play it, so I left it behind. Then I got to the glass case where they had some really good stuff, and we'll circle back to this later because I found some good stuff here in it. But this is the owner of the antique store's booth here. He's got a bunch of good games, obviously. He keeps it stacked and stocked, which is always awesome. When I caught out of the corner of my eye a GameCube game, Aggressive Inline. This is an awesome game, and for only $10, I had to grab it. He also had some PS5 games that were interesting to me, but honestly, I didn't need either one of these, so I just kind of checked them out and put them back. Again, there's a ton of games here. I always got to check out the Guitar Hero games and see how much those are priced for, and I ended up actually finding one that was worth picking up, and that was an Xbox 360 Guitar Hero World Tour right here. You'll see me go and grab it. For $5, this is definitely well worth picking up. And then over to the side, there were a few Xbox 360 games and a GameCube case that caught my eye, but no games in it, unfortunately. Then I kept walking where I checked out the booth that always has games, but they're always like 3 times the price. This one had a few games here and a few loose disc games here, but nothing that I thought I had to grab, so I just kind of flipped through it to see what was there, as well as this Guitar Hero, or actually that's Rock Band, but I didn't need that adapter. I saw these cool 3D printed like coaster sets, which I thought were awesome, and then there's still some DS games here in the glass case. But also in the glass case was this Xbox remote that's been here for a while, and a knockoff Game Boy like player that has a bunch of emulated games. But this thing really caught my eye. A 2-person arcade stick, but for $150, I just couldn't justify this, so I left it behind. Combat here, remember when Atari 2600 games were all like $1 a piece? Now I'm seeing some for like 10 or more, which blows my mind. This place had a ton of Disney Infinity stuff. I found this Xbox 360 chat pad, but it was a knockoff, so I left it behind. As well as this Yu-Gi-Oh box, which if I was young, or like when I was like 15, this would have been awesome to pick up, but I didn't need it, so I left it behind. But I did see Country Dance 2 for the Wii, as well as this booth had a bunch of games here. Some pretty interesting titles. They just restocked all of this, and I thought about picking up that Transformers game, but honestly, I didn't need it, and I think I might already have it in the collection. But I did keep walking where I ended up finding a few things here, but nothing I absolutely had to have. So I ended up checking out this booth that had a few games here, but again, nothing I needed. As well as I saw this green case. Pixels was a game that or a movie that I actually enjoyed, but some people didn't. Leave some comments down below if you did or not. But I saw it and it caught my eye. as well as a few games here, but honestly, nothing here was anything that I absolutely had to pick up. So I ended up only spending about $40 at the antique mall. First off was Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo for only 10 bucks. This was definitely well worth picking up. Then I got Guitar Hero World Tour for the Xbox 360. This one's complete for only $5. I couldn't pass it up. But I ended up finding also Aggressive Inline for the GameCube. So my GameCube selection here in the last few months has actually been pretty good finding things. So I'm glad to add this for $10. And last but not least, Wii Punch-Out! It was in the glass case for $15. This game is definitely well worth it. And honestly, I've never played this on the Wii, so I'm definitely going to have to give this a go and play it. But spending 5 different places and spending $40 at the antique mall and then $100 at the estate sale, I feel like this is a very good video to show that even though I'm going places, I don't always find stuff. You've got the Goodwill, the pawn shop, and the thrift store next to it. None of those had anything worth picking up. The estate sale really helped, as well as the antique mall. So not every time you go out game hunting do you find stuff, but I did find some really good stuff, and I'm really thankful that I paid attention on Facebook Marketplace, as well as went out and went game hunting. So what was your favorite pickup from this video? Comment down below and let me know. But I'm going to get out of here because these games need to be cleaned, and I did test the Nintendo 64 and everything is working, so that's awesome. But I'm going to get out of here. Check out that video out if you haven't already. Going to 5 places in one day was kind of difficult, but I made the time. We ended up finding some good stuff, and it was definitely well worth it. So if you enjoyed this, comment down below. Let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe. All that good stuff. But I'm getting out of here, so check out that video out if you haven't already.